There was once a man named Adrian. He was the richest man in the kingdom. He owned grand houses, fields that stretched beyond the horizon, ships filled with gold, and more servants than anyone could count. People bowed whenever he passed. Many admired him. Others feared him. But everyone knew one thing. Adrian believed his wealth made him wiser than everyone else, especially the poor. "If a man has nothing," Adrian often said, "he has nothing to teach me." One summer, dark clouds gathered over the kingdom. The river that supplied water to Adrian's farms began to dry up. Day after day, the water disappeared. His crops began to wither. His workers grew worried. "If the river dries completely," they warned, "everything will be lost." Adrian summoned the finest engineers, the smartest advisors, the wealthiest builders. They studied the river for days. Each offered expensive solutions. Build a larger dam. Dig deeper wells. Buy water from neighboring kingdoms. Adrian approved every plan. Gold poured out like sand. Yet the river continued to disappear. One afternoon, as Adrian stood staring at the cracked earth, an old shepherd approached him. His clothes were torn. His sandals were worn. His hands were rough from years of work. "My lord," the shepherd said politely, "I believe I know how to save your river." Adrian looked at him, then laughed. My engineers have studied this problem for weeks. What could a poor shepherd possibly know?" The old man smiled gently. "I grew up beside this river. My father taught me something about it many years ago." Adrian turned away. "I don't have time for fairy tales." The shepherd quietly nodded and walked away. Days became weeks. The crops died. The animals weakened. The wells became empty. Soon, Adrian's fortune began to disappear. He sold his ships, then his lands, then his grand home. Everything he had spent a lifetime building slowly slipped away. Months later, Adrian found himself walking through the same village where he had once been carried in a golden carriage. This time, he walked alone, with nothing. As he passed an old cottage, he saw the shepherd again. The old man was repairing a small wooden water channel. Water flowed freely through it. Adrian stopped. "How?" The shepherd smiled. "There is an underground spring beneath the eastern hill. It has always been there. The river dries every few decades. My father discovered the spring when I was a boy. All we had to do was clear the blocked channel." Adrian stared at the flowing water. Such a simple answer, one that could have saved everything. The shepherd looked kindly at him. "You didn't lose your wealth because the river dried. You lost it because pride closed your ears." Those words pierced Adrian's heart. For the first time in his life, he understood. Wisdom does not belong to the rich. Knowledge does not wear expensive clothes. Truth does not care about status. The greatest ideas often come from the people the world overlooks. Adrian spent the rest of his life rebuilding. Not his fortune, his character. Whenever someone offered advice, he listened before he judged. Whether they were a king, or a farmer, or a child. Years later, people no longer remembered Adrian as the richest man in the kingdom. They remembered him as the man who finally learned that humility is worth more than gold. Remember this: pride makes a man deaf. Humility allows him to hear the wisdom that can change his life. Never reject a voice because of the clothes it wears. Sometimes, the answer you've been searching for comes from the person you least expect. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to Eternal Wisdom TV, where every story carries a lesson that can change the way you see the world.